start, just want to say, I just wanted Kung Fu lessons, alright? And that's all I really want now. But for some reason, quite a lot of people just keep giving me shit because they can't handle the fact that I just want Kung Fu lessons. And I am absolutely certain that I would not have given people the trouble that I have if I'd just been allowed to learn Kung Fu like I should have been allowed in the first place. You know, but it never seems to occur to some people that maybe, just maybe, they just treated me like a human being, maybe just gave a little bit, maybe it might work out a little better for them. No, everybody has to just dig themselves in deeper and deeper. But anyway, now, I mainly want to talk about the fact that people are ignoring the existence of the CLF Code of Conduct, and like, how is this? How is this even possible? That I've been talking about this for years, okay? I first discovered this at the beginning of 2015, and I've been posting about it on social media, and people just keep the only people who will acknowledge it exists a lot of the time are people who are trolling me anonymously. Niel Willcott won't acknowledge its existence, and none of his students, Doc-Fai Wong, and none of his followers will even acknowledge it exists. So, and this has been going on for years, and it's not like, I mean, okay, so I'm the only one who's really agitating about it, okay, but it's not as though I'm the only person who thinks these rules are there. You know, the reason I found them is because they're on quite a number of websites across the world, in schools across the world. So it's not just me that says they're there, but it's somehow or other a certain groups of people seem to think that if they just keep ignoring it, maybe it'll all just go away. Well, it won't, you know, because there's all the other people who have the CLF Code of Conduct. You can't expect it to just disappear because you keep ignoring it. But anyway, it seems that people do. Now, I just want to take you through how it was I came to discover this, and oh, surprisingly, it's because I wasn't allowed in lessons. Now, I started lessons in the beginning of 2012, January 2012. I had a lot of trouble, dropped out of lessons at the end of November 2012, and started learning online at Niel Willcott's school, online school. And but I continued to have difficulties with Niel, and it's sort of hard to describe, but basically he's such a gaslighter, it's terrible. And you know, I found just going to his website to log in so difficult. I'd like hold up a page over the screen and so that I could click on the right button to log into the school without seeing what was on his website before I logged in, because it used to upset me so much. And like, I learned the tiger part of leopard versus tiger, because it was like available on YouTube publicly, and I didn't have to log in to learn the next form, because otherwise I had to log in to learn another form. So it was very difficult for me. Now, in the end, in August 2013, I decided to write a letter to Doc-Fai Wong, who was Niel's teacher. I was quite reluctant about it, to be honest, partly because I was really concerned that the reason why Niel was behaving in the way that he was because that was basically how he was taught by Doc-Fai Wong. And, you know, I had a look at Doc-Fai Wong's website, and to be honest, I was rather uncertain about some of the things that are on there. But I didn't have anywhere else to go. You know, it's not like there's any martial arts tribunal service. I mean, think about it. How many martial arts schools even have like a complaints procedure? You just don't really have anywhere to go much. So he was really the only place I could go. So I ended up writing to him. I don't know what happened between him and Niel as a result of that. It was just like one A4, side of A4 really, printed out. Wasn't huge on detail or anything. But yeah, I don't know quite what happened, but it seems that the result of this down the line was that Niel resigned from the Plum Blossom Federation. in December 2014. And I, you know, then there was all this trolling of Niel, like Doc-Fai Wong posted all this lies that I knew were lies immediately about Niel on his website and on his Facebook page, and then all these people were piling in, talking rubbish about him. And I was very angry, I was very upset, and I felt really responsible, because it seemed like, you know, nobody really knows, except for Niel and Doc-Fai Wong, I suppose, why he resigned, because he's never really said. But it does seem to have been precipitated by the fact that I complained to Doc-Fai Wong about him. So, now I don't know why, okay, but when I saw all this trolling and these lies being told about Niel, I thought, oh, I really should look up the Chan Hyung's rules, because I'm sure there must be something in them about, you know, how you shouldn't do this kind of thing, you know, telling lies, trolling and stuff. That's what I thought. And I'm not sure why, because, yeah, but anyway, because I was given a copy of Chan Hyung's rules the first day I went to a lesson, and it was these here. So, yeah, this is from the Guanyin Studio Facebook group page. I think she's cleared that now. Good, as far as I'm concerned. Kind of a thing I want. Well, I didn't have to clear the whole page, but I definitely wanted these removed. But anyway, so these are the rules that I was given. So looking at them, I'm not actually sure why it was that I thought that I was going to get something from them about what Doc-Fai Wong was doing and his followers were doing was wrong. But anyway, that was what I was given. So anyway, I didn't actually have a copy of the rules, so, well, I had to look it up on the internet, didn't I? And oh, look what I found. It was this. And this CLF Code of Conduct, it's completely different from Chan Hyung's rules. So, yeah, I was right to think that there should be something in Chan Hyung's rules about what Doc-Fai Wong was doing to Niel. I just had no idea what it really was or what it would mean. So took me a couple of days to really get my head around what had happened here. And, okay, so I did, I did initially write a very long and detailed email to Doc-Fai Wong about the CLF Code of Conduct. Admittedly, I wasn't really giving him the benefit of the doubt, because I was quite angry and upset. This was in February 2012. You know, and I was very detailed about which rules he'd broken and, you know, what I knew he'd lied about and stuff. So he could have, you know, he's had plenty of time since to explain himself, explain how it was that these other rules were going around called Chan Hyung's rules. Now, when I looked into this, I found this. It was in... Okay, so this is on a forum, I think it's like Kung Fu magazine forum or something. This would have been posted by Sifu, Frank Carthy, I think. The 10 rules of the Fatsan Hung Sing Queen. So, these are the closest to Chan Hyung's rules that I've seen, but to be honest, they're not all the same. There are very definite differences, like the first one here, seek approval of your Sifu for all things relative to the school style branch. And then you've got this one, which is was on another website. It's gone now since I mentioned it. This one, number 1, you must have an experienced teacher. And then number 10 on here is always work on balance and footwork, as it is the foundation of CLF Kung Fu. Whereas on this one, it's through practice, you cannot be bullied, you will always be self-confident. So, you know, there are key differences. There are things that are similar, you know, sex in moderation, fight to win, I think that's it's not specifically written like that, but you know, never back down unless to your advantage. Yeah, there are similarities, but there's quite a lot of differences. Oh, and another thing, so there's this other rules here, just says the Club Creed, okay, the American Hunting Goons Club Creed. Now, these are kind of similar to the Choidyfoot Code of Conduct, but they're not the same. But thing is, all of these, now remember Doc-Fai Wong is actually Futsan lineage. He doesn't like to admit that Futsan lineage is separate, but that's actually, all his teachers were Futsan teachers, or you know, the ones he likes to go on about. Whether or not they were actually his teachers is a little bit doubtful. But anyway, so these are the Futsan rules. So this is likely where Doc-Fai Wong kind of based his the rules that he's telling everybody on. Or not, maybe he got them from somewhere else, but he hasn't told me yet, so you know. But anyway, it doesn't say anything about Chan Hyung on here, and it wouldn't, because Futsan do not consider they consider their style of Choidyfoot to be different from, you know, the Chan Hyung's family style of Choidyfoot, because, you know, it was created by a student of Chan Hyung, not Chan Hyung himself. I mean, okay, so they use a lot of the same moves and stuff like that, but, you know, the systems are different. So, I'm guessing Doc-Fai Wong kind of got it from there, but, you know, he's not telling me, no one's telling me, okay, now, I can sort of get why it is that Doc-Fai Wong and his followers and his students all try and pretend it doesn't exist. Because, you know, it's a big fucking embarrassment, really, isn't it? I mean, Doc-Fai Wong is supposed to be the most fabulous grandmaster ever. Supposed to be the god of choice. There are people who say that. And, you know, he can't go around getting things like that wrong, can he? You know, certainly not in their book. They can't allow such a thought to occur to them. So I'm sure they've got all sorts of explanations for it, but mostly they just pretend it doesn't exist. So I can get that, but for some reason Niel Willcott and all of his followers just basically ignore the existence of the Choidyfoot Code of Conduct. And you know, Niel really, you can say it to his face and he will just ignore it. It's just amazing. And it's like he's in a parallel universe. I don't get it. I don't get why Niel is doing this. Because, I mean, I kind of assumed that once we discovered this Choidyfoot Code of Conduct, he would kind of incorporate it into his, you know, school kind of thing. Like, I don't see any reason why he wouldn't, particularly. There's, you know, it's like it would separate him from Doc-Fai Wong for a start. And the other thing is, you know, he does sort of claim that he's a student of Chan Sun Chiu. I'm not saying he never did learn from him, but, you know, he kind of makes a big deal of that. And presumably Chan Sun Chiu, you know, 4th generation descendant of Chan Hyung, presumably he was into the Code of Conduct and stuff. So like, I don't really know why it is that Niel, it's a mystery. You know, why would he keep ignoring the existence of the Choidyfoot Code of Conduct? Now, in the absence of anybody being prepared to even talk to me about it, I'm just going to have to speculate, aren't I? I mean, like, I do sort of, you know, it is possible that for him to just, like, not want to have me in lessons, but be prepared to have the Choidyfoot Code of Conduct in lessons. But it doesn't make sense to refuse to have me in lessons and refuse to even acknowledge the existence of the Code of Conduct. It doesn't make sense to me. So, anyway, I'm just going to speculate. So, I've got 5 points that I want to explore, possibilities, speculations that I wish to explore. I have spent quite a lot of time over the years looking at various websites, mostly to do with the Plum Blossom Federation. So I've had a fair amount of time to think about it, what's going on, blah blah blah. Now, first one, Sifu Jo Hardy, Niel's ex-wife. She's a very loyal and good follower of Doc-Fai Wong. She also happens to be Niel's ex-wife and mother of his children. So she's kind of got a bit of leverage there, hasn't she, really? Number 2, a whole bunch of cultish, bizarre beliefs. Oh, it's very interesting. You know, it's like that can all play into, and that, you know, that sort of expands on the ex-wife thing, really, because, you know, this will all play into what she's thinking and blah blah blah. And then number 3, still gaslighting, still playing a game, or maybe, you know, it's not just about playing some game, it's like this sort of weird thing is about them still hoping to, you know, cause me trouble. Number 4, Niel has a repeated and very strong pattern of creating reasons to claim that I'm stalking him. And that goes back to when I was in lessons. Now the thing is, I only relatively recently worked this out, sort of towards the end of last year. So since then I have really been avoiding giving him reasons to kind of bolster that claim. Yeah, fuck that devoted student shit, because, oh, Jesus, that is a thing that he was really using. So not doing that anymore. And then number 5, well, it could just be misogyny, couldn't it? You know, can't stand to have a woman knowing stuff that they don't know. It's ridiculous, isn't it? So I'm just going to deal with points 1, 2 and 3 in this one, because it's mostly concentrating on stuff to do with the Plum Blossom Federation. And the reason I'm doing that is that well, Niel would like it all to be about him. It isn't. There's a bigger picture here, and it's the PBIF, because, you know, they did shape Niel. Yeah, he has to take responsibility for his own actions and his own behaviour, but, you know, all of that was sort of transmitted to him. He is a creature of the PBIF, and you kind of have to look at them. And the thing is, they are such a dodgy bunch of people. And I do feel like they call, you know, they've got this big organisation. Doc-Fai Wong himself has huge influence. He's the best known Choy Foot Grandmaster. It's really worrying when you have someone like that having such a position and it never seems to be questioned that much. I mean, there are a few others who question it, but not many. And, you know, he's still there. Still living it large, being all cool, lovely grandmaster that everyone loves in the Plum Blossom Federation. So, you know, it's very worrying. So anyway, now I'm just going to take you through. Now this is the Guan Yin Studio website. Well, this is screenshots from it. The screenshots that I got these, the website I got these screenshots from. That it's currently not available. It's you have to sign into Google Sites. I don't have an account. I can't be bothered to get one. But the thing is, it's still there. It's just behind this wall kind of thing, and I'm pretty sure it could go back at any time. She's probably just hoping that, you know, once it's all blown over, she can put it all back. Now, it sort of doesn't make sense to me in a lot of ways because, yeah. She hasn't actually taught a lesson since 2013 apparently, or early 2013, but she has continued to update it until earlier this year. So why she's doing that, I'm not really sure. It doesn't make much sense to me. So, but let's look at her, shall we? See what kind of lovely person she is from this website. Now, you look at this. This is a clip from that page I just showed you. In 2003, she became a joint Sifu, senior level black fringe head instructor of the Hung Sing Martial Arts Schools. Now that is when Niel passed Sifu level. That's 3 levels above black belt in the Plum Blossom Federation. And she was with him at the time. So I kind of assumed from that she'd past that level, and then here we've got Jo was awarded the title of Thai Sifu of the Hung Sing Martial Arts School in May 2010. All very good. And now Thai Sifu within the Plum Blossom Federation, it's a title you get when you have taught 2 students to Sifu level. So, you know, she's looking pretty good, isn't she? And, you know, she only started learning in, what is it, 97 or something like that. So this is where this is, you know, 97 she began her training, blah, blah, blah. 2003, joined Sifu, blah, blah, blah. So, and then if you look on here, this is the this is the lineage chart from Doc-Fai Wong's website, okay. 6th generation, Michael Push, oh here we go, 6th generation Joe Hardy, students Heidi Bacon and Chris Abbott. And then we've got 6th generation Niel Willcott, students Heidi Bacon, and oh, Chris is on the next page. I'm sure that's just an accident of the layout. I'm sure they didn't really mean to do that. Now it looks here, the way it's set out, it looks like Joe is senior to Niel there, and she's older than him, but anyway, seniority is within martial arts is about, you know, your rank. It's not about your age necessarily. So anyway, so you know that all looks legit. Basically, she and you know that's all backed up by this thing on Doc-Fai Wong's website. But hey, look at this. There's this certificate that's also on Joe's website. And by the way, I first saw Joe's website, that website, in 2012, well, after I started with Niel, and I looked at it a number of times in 2012. There is this other website that's like an older one. It's kind of that. It's got the blurb that I just showed you from the newer website. But this one, it only goes back to 2010 and 2011. So for some reason, she decided to do the more sophisticated one here after I started learning. But you know, but I've only found that one, that most recent one, because I was looking for this more sophisticated website. So anyway, yeah, this certificate. Now, here we go. Doc-Fai Wong, yeah, student of Joe Hardy, student of Doc-Fai Wong, blah blah blah. Completed requirements in the system of Charlie Foot, senior advanced level black fringe. Given this 8th day of May, 2010. Okay, not 2003, 2010. 7 years later. Now I'll be honest. Like I said, I looked at her website quite a few times, probably from about April or May in 2012, several times each year from there, and I did come across this certificate before Niel resigned from the PBIF, and I noticed the date and I thought that was a bit odd, but I just kind of thought, oh well, maybe she just wanted a certificate in her own name because, you know, she'd separated from Niel. She didn't want it in Joe Willcott, she wanted to say Joe Hardy, and it'd be fair enough for her to want that. That's kind of how I explained it to myself. And then I don't know what happened. It was like when Niel resigned from the PBIF, scales fell from the eyes or something, because I looked through her website again and I came across this and I noticed the date and I thought, hang on a minute. And I realised that actually that was when she passed Sifu level. So all this, you know, this stuff here is all like basically a lie. It's making her look better than she really is. And on top of that, you will not find any mention of Niel Willcott. None. She never mentions him on her website. She only acknowledges Doc-Fai Wong as her teacher. I was told by a troll that Niel actually taught her quite a lot, but she never ever acknowledges him. You know, and this thing of her passing Sifu level in 2003, well, she's just using the fact that she was once with Niel to say that, and it looks legit because we all know that Niel passed Sifu level in 2003, but the fact was, she wasn't even married to him then, so she couldn't even call herself a Semo. She didn't. Another troll told me she married him in 2004. So yeah, so this is all in, you know, so she's basically using the fact that she was once with Niel, her past association with Niel, to make herself seem really good, really brilliant, so much better than she could ever really hope to be, I guess, or certainly isn't prepared to make the effort to be. And she's doing it in collusion with Doc-Fai Wong. That's what's happening here. So, It's kind of a thing, isn't it? Huh? Her undermining Niel, not not acknowledging him, colluding with Doc-Fai Wong to undermine him. So thing is, and she has children with him, and now thing is, I have a child with my ex-husband. She's now grown up. I haven't had any more children since then, and the reason I haven't had any more children since then is not because I didn't want any, because I would love to have had more children, but the thing is, when I separated from my daughter's father, he was a nightmare, and he really used the fact that we'd had a child together in order to cause me a lot of trouble and to sort of try and control my life for years after we separated, and it kind of carried on up until she was 15. So, and I've seen it happen quite a lot with friends, you know. I mean, Niel is the same age as me, Joe is 4 years older than us. I'm sure she loves it when I mention that. And, you know, I've known people our ages have children together, you know, big couples have children together and then separate and cause each other trouble because they've had, you know, and they use the fact that they've had children together to cause each other trouble, and women do it as well as men, and it's just really bad. And she's obviously got a thing about undermining him, making him small, basically, and I see no reason to believe that she absolutely would never use her children in order to, you know, cause him trouble. So basically what I'm trying to say here is she has a position in Niel's life, she has a lot of leverage over him, so maybe the reason that Niel is not acknowledging the CLF Code of Conduct is because she's basically forcing him to, you know, because she has that leverage, and she's doing it on behalf of Doc-Fai Wong and, you know, all of the other people who are there behind him. Yeah, and yeah, it could work both ways. Maybe Niel uses the fact that he's had children with Joe to get at her. I've no idea. I mean, he could. He's a pain that I find him to be quite a pain in the neck, so it wouldn't surprise me if he did that. But I do feel it's a possibility that should not be discounted. I'm just speculating, okay? Nobody will tell me anything. If she doesn't like it, maybe she could, you know, do something about it. I don't know. So that kind of brings me on to the next one. So we've got this the cultish bizarre beliefs. Now this is the Doc-Fai Wong's Centre website. You can look down here, there's a legendary bites of Doc-Fai Wong. You might want to check that out, I don't know. There's some sort of interesting insights there that you might enjoy. Photo album, God, there's so many photos, like hundreds of photos. Not well organised either, but anyway, this is the best one. Experiences with Doc-Fai Wong. So what do we think experiences with Doc-Fai Wong might be like, huh? Well, so here we see Joe Hardy in Pride of Place here. That used to be a picture of both Joe and Niel, but when Niel resigned from the PBIF, the picture of Niel was taken away. So, In Awe of Grandmaster by Simo Joe Hardy. Look, why is she still a Simo, for God's sake? I mean, she has passed Sifu level. But anyway, so there's a bit down here, and she goes on about how amazing Doc-Fai Wong is. So, yeah, having observed our session in practice, Grandmaster asked Si Hing to partner with him in order to demonstrate Choi Li foot sparring. No matter what Si Hing did to Grandmaster, he was closed off and every move was controlled. The only right way to describe what we witnessed is to say Si Hing became a puppet. I'm sort of not sure how that makes Si Hing a puppet, but anyway, I just kind of wanted to draw you, I'll explain why I particularly want to draw your attention to that one later. Then there's this one, you can see his chi. Right, that is where a picture was taken of Doc-Fai Wong doing some kung fu, and there was, when it was developed, there was this line of magic chi. It came out in the photo, you could see it in the photo. Oh my god, isn't he amazing? And then there's this one, Chi Escapes. That's where there was some photo shoot thing where Doc-Fai Wong was, it's a photo shoot for a cover of a magazine. Doc-Fai Wong was repeatedly hitting towards someone, but obviously not actually hitting someone for this photo. But then, oh my God, this man, even though he'd never been hit, he was ill, he was drained, he was so ill for hours afterwards. And it was because of Doc-Fai Wong's magic chi, it escaped from the palm of his hand! Yeah! Anyway, and then this impressive I can't remember what that was, something to do with him doing press-ups on his fingers or something. Now there's a few other things on here that are all kind of, I think of as quite nasty bullying behaviour, but they all kind of make it out to be like great lessons learned or examples of his hilarious sense of humour. But anyway, this is my favourite, okay, witness of empty balls. What could this be? Over the years, experiencing Doc-Fai Wong demonstrating forms at various tournaments and special events have always been a treat. Well, I'm sure that, if you go and watch Doc-Fai Wong tournaments, that's great. Witnessing empty force sent me, hang on a minute, especially for the first time, was amazing, scary and quite invigorating to feel so helpless while a force travels to you from a distance, manipulating your body is an experience I will never forget. So, there. Right. That's what he does. That's how you witness a Doc-Fai Wong at a tournament. You have him manipulating your body from afar. Like, what? What? I just... that's just unbelievable. So, and that's why I sort of wanted to draw your attention to the bit on Joe Hardy saying he's like a puppet master kind of thing. Because, I'm guessing, maybe one of the excuses they might give is that, Doc-Fai Wong's controlling their mouths, not allowing them to say anything about the Code of Conduct or something. I bet you that's going to be a reason. I just, so that's what's on the website. That's great fun to really have a read of. Now there's this stuff that this woman said to me when she was trolling me. There's this is Jollyfoot's a woman. She trolled me a lot. She trolled Niel a lot. All of her comments have gone from his YouTube thing. So from his YouTube videos. I don't know why. I don't know if she removed them or if he removed them, but they're all gone. But anyway, I decided I do screenshot a fair amount of stuff that goes on YouTube just because some of it is a bit ridiculous. This one was kind of my favourite. Was particularly special. Dalai Lama is a patsy for a larger Tibetan cult, brainwashed from childhood to think he is the reincarnation of a Buddha. That's why the Chinese kicked him out. You and your bloody Code of Conduct, something for the beginner students of CLF. And then the next one, Niel teaches the Code of Conduct to his personal students. What? That's a bit contradictory, isn't it? First it's for beginners, now it's only for personal students. But she did that a lot. She was all... it was just like she just said anything that came into her head, really. But I do think this stuff is worth looking at, because, even though some of it is just stuff that's coming into her head, I do think there's some stuff that is worth noting. So anyway, you are not his student, but a customer of the business. There are many secret rites and rituals, I will not write here, that must be demonstrated to become his student. Do you really think the testings are that easy? You watched X fail, ha ha, but you didn't really see who failed. It was all a big test for someone, not a test for you, so don't get all narcissistic. It was part of my test and I failed. Well, gosh. It's referring to when someone was failed when he shouldn't have been, and she'd engineered that. And then we've got some other interesting stuff here. Ooh, there is something different about him. I have heard from people that have seen his passport that he is 10 years older than he makes out. His name is also different. It's Nathaniel de Willcott. Maybe why he has that odd voice. I don't think English is his first language. I have also heard people say they've seen him glow and light up when he meditates. He also changes shape. Ha 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 ha! I think she's just saying stupid shit, to be honest, there. But then there's this one. How can this be his phone number? And that's his business number, it's on his website. His name is Willcott, adds up to 33 in Pythagorean numerology, and Niel is 22, so Niel Willcott equals 55. Is the centremost master number. Did he change his name for this reason, or does 55 equal SF? I'm not even going to look up Pythagorean numerology because I can't be bothered. But I was sort of quite interested by this bit here. Now, obviously, considering what you've seen on the other website, this idea of secret rituals and rites and stuff to be like a student, it could well be the case that, you know, to be like a special kind of student, you'd have to go through all this stuff, because they clearly do have some strange stuff going on. But I was sort of interested by this one here. Dalai Lama is a patsy for a large Tibetan cult, brainwashed from childhood to think he's the reincarnation of the Buddha. Now, Dalai Lama, there are some doubts about whether or not there will be another Dalai Lama. It's quite difficult to sort it out because obviously the Chinese are going to leap on anyone who is declared the next Dalai Lama. So, but anyway, the reason I'm saying this is that and this kind of started, I think, after I contacted Doc-Fai Wong. Actually, there was stuff that started appearing on Niel's website about kind of making out that he's like the inheritor of the Buddhist, being the Buddhist leader, Buddhist patriarchy, or being the Buddhist patriarch. He kind of makes out, he doesn't actually say it, but he sort of makes it look like he's the reincarnation of the Buddha, which I've always considered laughable, but it has been there, and it's still kind of there. If you look on his current website, where it's histories of, you know, Choi Li Fut and Kung Fu, he will talk about, you know, the handing down of the title to him, basically, from the first Buddha. So so that was kind of interesting to me from that point of view. Now, if you look on here, now this spiel that is on this website is basically Joe sort of trying to be, not exactly say she's a goddess of mercy, but, you know, this here, this picture, that is Joe, that's Joe's face, that's her body, looking like the Guan Yin. Now, I don't think I've even seen Donald Trump pasting his face over a picture of a god. You know, you don't see Donald Trump putting his face on an image of Jesus or anything like that. So, like, that's an amazing level of hubris going on there, to be honest with you. There's all this other stuff. Oh yes, she is seen as a champion of the unfortunate, the sick, the disabled, the poor, and those in trouble. I've never seen her concerning herself with those people, frankly. And then there's this other one. Oh yeah, she liberates all beings from their own karmic ways. Don't see her doing that. Seen as a saviour, never seen her saving anyone. You know, the only thing that she's got in common with the Guan Yin, as far as I can tell, is that she's a vegan. That's pretty much as far as it goes. So why am I talking about this? Well, the other thing that came up initially on one of Niel's websites, he's had a few over the years, is this story of the origin of the goddess of mercy, where you know, she saw the suffering of people in the world and was so upset she tried to help everyone, and then was split into 1,000 pieces, and then she was put back together by the first Buddha or Lohan or whatever, and that's why she's got all 1,000 arms, essentially, or had loads of arms, because, you know, that's how she was put back together, and so that she could carry on healing and stuff. So I do sort of wonder if there's this kind of belief that there's supposed to be like, and you know, do remember that there's a lot of belief in like living gods and goddesses and reincarnations of gods and goddesses and the Buddha and stuff like that in those kind of religions. So I sort of wonder if there's supposed to be this thing where there's supposed to be like a reincarnation of the Buddha and a goddess of mercy, and they're supposed to like be together and save the world or something, and that might be why she was there with Niel there. Because the thing is, right, this guy here, he has a wife, who has the title Taisimo, but she's not on there at all, and like, I don't know why he doesn't get to do all this Buddha stuff, and why his wife isn't being like the goddess of mercy or anything like that. But I spent a lot of time. I have looked on their website. I mean, not recently, but they don't do all that. So, and obviously Doc-Fai Wong would want to have control over people he thought of as, reincarnations of the goddess and the Buddha and stuff like that. So I do sort of wonder if there's some kind of weird belief that, they're supposed to be, like, saving the world. I don't know. I'm just speculating. I mean, the thing is, like, nobody will tell me anything, and it's very strange, and I'm not sure. And the thing is, right, these rules that Doc-Fai Wong has been telling everyone, if presumably he wrote them, he could tell me where he got them from if he didn't, but it's like he wants to make it all his own, and maybe the reason they don't want to acknowledge the CLF Code of Conduct is that they're not his rules, and he can't, like, exert his authority if he allows those rules, and, this is all part of it. And this whole goddess and Buddha thing is all part of it. It's a bit strange, because, like, I mean, the CLF Code of Conduct is based on Buddhist teachings, because, that's, Chan Hyun wrote them after, learning Buddhism for however many years with Choi Fook, and, and that was what he was supposed to do. He was supposed to carry on the legacy of Buddhism. So I'm guessing Doc-Fai Wong would rather keep all that for himself, because he's kind of like that. So, I mean, that could be some sort of reason why it is they're all trying to pretend that the CLF Code of Conduct doesn't exist, because it would take away, it really would take away a lot, possibly from, like, plans for the future. I've got no idea, but it's just like, it's very difficult to know, because nobody will tell anything. Someone could come along and tell me if they want, but nobody's been telling me anything. It's going on for years, since beginning of 2015, so, Anyway, so playing some game. Okay, so there has been some very strange stuff that I've experienced. Now, the thing about playing some game, now, it could be that there's just this thing of targeting an individual and thinking it's a great laugh. And obviously the sort of ignoring the CLF Code of Conduct is kind of a continuation of that. But there could be something else. I mean, they clearly have got some really strange ideas. And I do kind of wonder if they have this thing where they maybe target an individual and they sort of drive them to suicide or something, and they think that gives them some kind of power. I mean, they do have some really strange stuff going on. So, yeah, I don't know, but, like, in going back to this, this one here, where this one was talking about this person who has failed. Now, 6 months after I started at lessons in June 2012, there was a testing for Green Fringe. There was this young man, and there was this boy, he clearly been about 14 or something. This young man did pretty well, everybody thought he did well, but this boy, he was just not capable at all, he was not prepared at all. He shouldn't have been in that test, basically. And I was really shocked by how he performed, because, and he was obviously really distressed by it as well, and Niel had to stop the test early to just save him from the humiliation. I mean, it was quite a big audience, and he was failing horribly in front of this really quite big audience. So, and I was really shocked by it, because I was well aware that Niel didn't like failing people, and his sort of approach to avoiding failing people was to make sure that they were taught properly in the first place, so that they just weren't going to fail because they knew what they were doing. And I was sort of, now this boy, he was put in, this boy who couldn't do anything, was put in by Choi Fook, this woman. And Okay, so he was her student, and this young man, he was the student of a lower ranking teacher. Okay, so far so good. Now, there was this other woman who I had seen in lessons on a far more regular basis than I was really comfortable with, and the reason was that after I passed the basic tests, started learning forms, I found that like whatever lesson I went to, sometimes I would go in on Tuesday, sometimes I would go in on Wednesday, but whichever day I went in, the woman came in as well, but a little bit late. And, you know, after 2 or 3 months of this, it got really quite discomforting, frankly. I mean, and I sort of came to the conclusion that maybe the reason that she managed to keep doing this was that, you know, I would cycle past her house on my way in, and, you know, she'd be watching for me from her window, and then as soon as she saw me go past, she'd go into action. But obviously she'd be a bit late because she was waiting until she'd seen me go past. That was kind of what I thought was probably the reason. So I was obviously a little bit uncomfortable with her anyway, and then at this testing, she came along all nicely dressed up, sat next to me in the audience, talked to me a lot, talked to me when we left the testing after these people were failed, and you know, kept talking to me right up until we went to the pub, talked to me really loudly, monopolised me in the pub, and then we moved, that was like in front of loads of people, and then we moved to another pub, and then she took me round the back away from everybody else and talked to me more, and it was very bizarre, it was very strange, she was really intense, and I've never had such a bizarre conversation. And to start with, she knew, it turned out, my ex-boyfriend. Like, how she knew I knew him, I have no idea, because I never mentioned his name, I never mentioned anyone he knew. I was very, you know, I'd had a lot of trouble with him and some other bunch of other people the previous year, and I'd come to Kung Fu lesson to get away from that. I certainly wasn't going to mention him to her or anyone, you know. So how did she know that I knew this man? And she'd met him before I was in a relationship with him, and that was back in like '98. So you know, she kind of went back a long way, but how did she even know that? I never told her anything about it. She wasn't friends with me on Facebook, and even if she was, I'd blocked him at that point and some other people. So she couldn't have got it from there either. I eventually came to the conclusion that she must have gone through my mobile phone, because, you know, I would have left it in the changing rooms and she would have been able to go in there to look through it. I think that must have been the way that she found out, really, because it wasn't just him that she knew. She also knew a woman that he was living with at the time. She was absolutely convinced they were together. I had to keep saying no, they weren't together. They had been together at one point, but they were just living in the same house. They weren't together, but she was absolutely convinced they were together. So it seemed like she knew that they were living together. And she came up with all these other names. It was over the course of the evening. It wasn't all night. It was peppered with other stuff. And I knew quite a lot of these people whose names she came up with. So that was kind of weird. That was a bit disturbing. And then there was all this other stuff. I mean, she kept going on about how awful the school was, and I couldn't really understand why she'd been there for years if it was so bad. But, you know, I kind of felt like I wasn't really in a position to judge her. And she really insinuated a number of times over the course of the evening that the reason that this young man had been failed, who did quite well, was in fact because I had gone to Niel, to this man's teacher, for lessons for a couple of weeks when Niel had not been coming in. Which just seemed really strange to me because, you know, Niel was away, he didn't give me any warning. I turned up, he wasn't there was this other man there. So what was I supposed to do? Not, like, just go away? Nobody told me I was only allowed to learn from Niel. So I found that really strange and disturbing. I couldn't really understand why that should be, because I'd gone to someone else for a couple of weeks when Niel wasn't there. She kind of went on a lot about how people are always being failed at green fringe level. They weren't progressing and they'd do well, and then they'd fail. And this was the thing that came up with other people. They'd all, subsequently, I'd have there were these people who wanting me to tell them why it was this guy had been failed, and and they were kind of saying that people weren't progressing very well, and it was and she was saying, well, what would you do if you were failed and you performed like that? And I don't know. I said, well, I'm a stubborn bugger. I think I proved that one right. And she she kept wanting to know why he had failed, and she seemed to think I would know. Like, I don't know why I would have known. I don't know why she thought I would know, but she kept asking me over and over again. There was nothing, I kept trying to say, I don't know. I've just been there for 6 months. How am I supposed to know? In the end, I just said, oh, well, maybe he was having a bad day. And that was pretty much the only answer she would accept. So that was all a bit strange. And it's... So, like, there could be this thing where, like those two women, they'd been there for years and they knew what they were doing. That was a very well coordinated thing that they did there, to be honest with you. This woman had this guy failed, she'd done it on purpose, and the reason that, like Niel had no choice but to fail both of them under the circumstances, because, she was the higher ranking teacher, so you couldn't fail her student without also failing a lower ranking teacher's student. It's just a stupid etiquette thing, ridiculous etiquette thing. So, and I kind of feel like the least bad thing you can say about that is that they'd done that before, and, maybe they kind of had a thing about targeting people, just really gaslighting them, making them feel awkward and stuff like that. Now, look at my arms. There's quite a lot of scarring on them, and that's going to be pretty obvious if you're in a Kung Fu lesson with me and I'm just wearing a t-shirt. So, maybe they just thought I was easy meat, and, they didn't, and they had this thing where they just liked targeting people because they thought it was fun. And, they're just carrying on with this because they're just carrying on with this ridiculous behaviour about the CLF Code of Conduct, because they're still hoping to just gaslight me enough to convince me to just, I don't know, go mad. I really do. It did feel a lot like they were just really hoping to, like, drive me to suicide, basically. So, I mean, I don't know. Like, there could have been this thing where it was all part of the kind of general undermining of Niel. I have no doubt, it wouldn't surprise me if those two were kind of, I don't know, in cahoots with Joe. Maybe it was like Joe's idea or something to do it like that. It was certainly pretty clever. She's pretty clever. She could have come up with that idea. Kill two birds with one stone, and, there's this thing about making sure that students didn't progress, basically. There could have been that, because they didn't want people to do well in Niel's school. And I don't know. It's very difficult because nobody will tell me anything. So maybe it was just that, or maybe I don't know quite why I have been targeted so much for so long. I mean, that was right at the beginning when, like, why would they make such a big deal of me back then when I was still just a beginner? I mean, okay, so I was doing well, I was progressing really quite quickly, but, like, it was a very strange thing. It was almost like they knew how good I would be now, which doesn't really make sense. Like, how would they know? I mean, there's this thing where I learned the double hook swords form from Niel's video, which most people can barely see because there's loads of flashing and multiple images and other special effects, but I learned it from that video, and like obviously I couldn't learn it from Niel directly, you know, going to a school and learn it. Obviously Joe Hardy's not going to teach it to me, and you know, his Sifu level students, well, they probably know it, but they wouldn't teach me it either. So it was kind of like, but I don't know how many other people would have been able to learn that form from that video, but probably not that many. And but it was almost like they knew then that I would be able to do things like that. It was a bit of a strange thing. I don't know quite how they could have known, but anyway, whatever the reason, this kind of business with refusing to acknowledge the Foot Code of Conduct, it's all kind of an extension of that, because you know, it is just more gaslighting essentially. It's more trying to convince me that reality is different, essentially. And that's what they've been doing all along. They've been trying to kind of bend my perception of reality. And, you know, and then, of course, if they keep trying to pretend this Foot Code of Conduct doesn't exist, well, maybe, you know, I will collapse or something, you know, my brain will implode or something, I don't know. It's just like, I have no idea. Nobody will tell me anything. Like, they'll just, you know, all I get is anonymous trolls. So, you know, but the thing is, right, like I said, this is quite a large group of martial artists here. It's Doc-Fai Wong, he's very powerful, you know, quite powerful within the world of Foot. He's the most well known. I'm willing to bet, you know, just going by what's on here, that there's been a lot of nasty bullying, gaslighting, manipulative, shitty behaviour over the years that's come from Doc-Fai Wong and his students. And you may not have heard about it, but I don't think that means it isn't there, or it hasn't been there. I mean, I'm not even sure that this young man who was failed knows why it was that he was failed. I'm not even sure if he knows who was responsible, you know. So it may be that people have had stuff happen, but there's so much sleight of hand and misdirection that they don't really understand what has happened. And I think the other big difference between me and these other people is that I'm not staying silent. I'm still here, I'm still talking, whether these people like it or not. And I suspect the only reason we don't know about these other people is that they've somehow been silenced, or they're afraid to say anything, or they have been convinced that they are mad, basically. And it concerns me. I mean, so I'm going to kind of stop there. I will talk a lot more about Niel in the next video, but I really, really want people to have a good hard look at what Doc-Fai Wong and his followers and his organisation, because they are dodgy as fuck. Like, they are the most, I cannot believe how dodgy these people are. And that's just what's on the surface. I am not in a position to investigate them any further than this, really. I've been looking for years. They're so dodgy. There is so much dodgy stuff going on. I bet you, if you had a long, good look at them, if you were able to, I don't know, get hold of some more stuff that's not actually available on websites, you would find some really dodgy stuff. Yeah, I don't like these people. I'm very concerned about the influence that they have over so many people across the world, and it's really bad, it's really wrong. They embody everything that is bad about martial arts, and they are just the biggest stain, the nastiest thing. You know, they're ruining, Foot is, it shouldn't be this, and they're making it something that it really shouldn't be. So, till next time.